What's up everyone, this is Glen here once again with another RopeRage video, and today we've got another video in the jump rope like a boxer series. And if you haven't seen the compilation videos that were posted previously, definitely do go check them out. I think it's just really cool to see the variation of techniques that these athletes can exhibit, so I'm going to tag the video up here. Definitely recommend checking that one out. In this video though, we're specifically looking at one technique, and we're looking at one boxer, and that boxer is Kell Brook. Now Kell Brook came with a really unorthodox, unusual, interesting movement, and this video actually was requested on the channel in the comment section by Santiago Cruz. Forgive me if I've mispronounced that. They asked that we look specifically at that movement. So keep those comments coming in. We're going to get into this, quite a challenging movement, not your ordinary movement. Let's have a look at it. So what I like to do with these is I'll look at the technique as a whole and look for certain characteristics of the move that I'll need to pay attention to. So in this case, the two keys with this move are flexibility and rhythm. And in fact, rhythm is actually something that Bunge requested on Instagram. Again, apologies if I've mispronounced the name, but you have to cut me some slack. I can only read these names, I don't get to hear them, so sometimes I might mispronounce them, but do correct me if I'm wrong. But the request was to look more at rhythm, and I think that's a good suggestion too. So this is going to be a kind of 2-in-1. We're going to look at the technique. Later in the video, we're going to pay closer attention to rhythm, how to get better rhythm, and a little tool that you can use internally to get your rhythm down and get those jumps going nicely timed with no interruptions. All right, so as I said, two keys. The first was flexibility. So you want to have a level of flexibility, especially in the hamstring. A good sort of measure of this is quite a simple stretch. I'm sure you've all tried it before, but you're just going to stand upright and see if you can reach down and at least touch the ankles. If you can grab your ankles, you're looking good. You want to work towards being able to touch the floor though. Remember to keep the knee straight and locked out. Don't bend at the knee, because what this does is it gives some slack to the hamstring muscle as you're bending over. You want that hamstring muscle to be fully engaged. If your hamstring muscle is too tight, you will know as you won't be able to reach the ground. So make sure you're nice and warm, make sure the muscles are nice and loose before going into this technique. Flexibility with this movement is quite an awkward movement, and as you're kicking that leg up, you're definitely going to feel it in the hamstring more than any other leg muscle. So you want to get to a point where you can, ideally without bending the knee, touch the toes from a standing. If you can't just yet, work to it. If you spend a few minutes every day working on those stretches, the muscles will adapt. You want to be able to get that flexibility so that you don't pull something, and so that you're doing the technique right. To start with, the rhythm for this technique is what we'll call a 2-beat rhythm, which basically means in order for the technique to be complete, it's going to take 2 counts. You have the step count and then the kick out count. So the rhythm is going to be step, kick, step right, step left, step right, step left, step kick, step kick. As always with footwork, start without the rope. Work on that rhythm. You don't have to extend out fully to begin with either, because you want to get the rhythm ingrained. After you've got that down and you're comfortable with it, grab your rope, incorporate the rope with that rhythm. sneaky trick with the flexibility as you kick the leg up. Focus on pointing your toes upwards. That will help you get the leg as straight as possible. If you're letting your toes flat and kind of point forwards rather than upwards, you're more likely to have a knee bend, and you want to avoid that with this one. My favorite technique to use to really get the rhythm down this is actually something that was introduced in the new Redefining Rage training handbook. So let me find it quickly actually. So this is a technique that I call the clock face method, and in a nutshell, you're using it to time your jumps and time your rotations of the rope, get a better sense of it. I'll briefly read through it. The clock face method is probably my favorite training process for improving timing. It's a simple method once understood, and it can be applied to practically every jump rope move. It goes like this. Think of the circular path your rope moves in as it rotates. That forms the outline of your clock. If you stop and take a freeze frame at any moment, your rope will be pointing to a time on the clock. The key is to use the position of your rope according to the clock to help judge the timing of your jump. So, the single under, known also as the basic bounce, is probably the first technique everyone learns with skipping. For regular single unders, we're aiming to jump when the rope is between 5 and 6 on the clock in its rotation. That will allow us to get a good rhythm of continuous bounces going at a steady and consistent pace. And I think continuous is the key word there, because you're not just bombing to see how quickly you can get the rope around. You don't look at one rotation, you need to look at multiple rotations and see what is the best solution for all of the rotations. So if I wanted to say get 5 jumps in super quickly, I'm going to whip that rope around as fast as I can, but what will happen is that's not sustainable. And this is the issue that a lot of people have with rhythm. You're doing too much, you're trying to rotate the rope too quickly, and the rope ends up catching up with you, and then it catches you on the foot. If you think more, okay, I want to do a steady 20 minutes of non-stop jumping, you need to think about the 20-minute pace you need to establish. And what this means is you don't want to go super quickly, you space it out. That will allow us to get a good rhythm of continuous bounces going at a steady and consistent pace. But of course, if timing were that simple, it wouldn't take long to master it. The timing of your jump is dependent on the speed of the rope. If we are doing fast single unders, we need to adjust our timing and instead aim for a jump between 4 and 5. So what's happening there, and I'm going to tie it back in with this Kell Brook technique as well. What's happening there is the faster you're moving your rope, the earlier you jump in its position on the clock face. If the rope is at 4, between 4 and 5 on the clock face, and you're jumping, that rope needs to be moving at a quick pace. Otherwise, eventually that rope's just going to catch you on the feet. If you're jumping slower, you can afford to wait for the rope to come all the way around, so it's just between 5 and 6 before you get that jump in, and you can continue to do that at a steady pace across your training. If you wanted to speed things up in a flash, you need to start jumping when that rope is earlier in its journey, around 4 or 5. I'm hoping these diagrams on the screen are helping to explain this too, but of course, as always, if there are any questions, drop them in the comments section. I'm always here to chat with you guys and help out. As for this clock face method, in the book, the example is the single under. It also is used for the crossovers and I think double unders as well. But we'll be going into that more in greater detail in future videos. This is more of an introduction to it and how it can be applied to rhythm. So here's another key thing. For this Kell Brook technique, because you're doing quite a strange movement with the leg, you definitely don't want to start off too quickly. You want to start with a nice steady rotation. Treat it like a regular single under, as is described in the book. You're going to jump between 5 and 6. Not only because it's an unorthodox movement, but because you need your rope to be very stable. There are 2 elements in skipping, right? The rope and the jump, the hands and the feet. The hands can be moving in a steady state, as is the case in maybe a single under or a double under, not much going on, but they can also be moving in an irregular state. So you might have a crossover or a side swing. Same with the feet. The feet can be moving in a nice, stable, steady state, maybe single unders, double unders, you're just doing a single jump. But then if you start to run on the spot, or you start to do some fancy crisscrosses with your feet, you're making that a more unusual movement. This Kell Brook technique has the unusual foot aspect of the movement, with the fancy can kicking and the flexibility aspect. By the way, as I'm doing this technique, I've really felt it engaging my ab muscles a lot, which was a surprise to me. But I'm guessing it's more because the core is working to stabilize my body as I'm now standing on one foot, but that's just a side point. Back to the point, because you're using quite an irregular movement of the feet, you need to have a stable movement of your rope. So you need to make sure your rope rotation is to a point where it's almost on autopilot and you're not thinking about it, because all of that kicking and that flexibility is enough to think about in itself. Keeping the rope steady will be quite difficult, you will find, and that's because what's going on inside the rope, i.e. your body, is quite unstable and unorthodox. So in order to keep those hands disciplined, put in a little bit more effort. Definitely a technique I'd recommend trying out. It's an unusual one, that's for sure, but it does have its benefits in working that flexibility and the keeping core stability as well. So Santiago and Bunge, thank you for sending in your suggestions for this video. I really do appreciate it. And I think that wraps it. Yeah. If you found this video helpful, do not just go into your next tab and forget about this video. It will hurt my feelings immensely. Please do like the video, drop a comment down below just to let me know how your training's going, let me know what you thought of the video, of certain aspects in this video, or even just to say hi, I missed you. I'm always here to respond to the comments, and until next time, all the best with your training and stay raging.
Okay, what rope should I use? If I had a penny for every time I heard that. Short handles or long handles? A shorter rope is a faster rope. A longer rope gives you more room for error. How can I improve my footwork? The ground is your ally. The feet need to cooperate with the ground. How can I go faster? Why does my rope keep tagging? These double unders are killing me. How do I deal with frustration? How can I be more consistent? How can I prevent injuries? What is the point of using nunchucks? What is the magic wand grip? What is the clock face? What is the cowboy method? What is rage?